Emotional intelligence is a funny thing. You could read books about it and you can know about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're emotionally intelligent. So, how do you grow in emotional intelligence? Hi, my name is Chuck Whitley. I am an executive coach that specializes in spiritual direction. Today, I want to look at this question of how do you grow your emotional intelligence? Well, first of all, let me ask the question, why is it important? I remember years ago reading a book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, where he made some pretty audacious claims. He said that those who ran high in emotional intelligence typically made more money than those who ran high in IQ. People who ran high in emotional intelligence typically moved up in promotions faster. They were better at casting vision. They were better at moving people along in that vision. They made great managers. They were better at group cohesion. These individuals tended to do a really good job when it came to issues like corporate culture and creating a positive corporate culture. And it seems to me that if you want to start an organization, if you want to grow an organization, or if you want a healthy organization, you want people who run high in both IQ and EQ, emotional intelligence. But our key question is, how do you grow in your emotional intelligence? Especially if you are well educated. If you spent a lot of your life working on your PhD or your MBA, if you have spent your life pushing down your emotions so you can make it through the day, if you worked as hard as you can to not feel and just focus on the facts, getting things done, focusing on the numbers, what we're learning now, and in a sense, what we've always known, but the research is catching up with us, is that emotional intelligence is actually extremely important if you want a healthy, growing, strong organization. Well, let's talk about this. But I want to talk about it from a spiritual direction perspective. So I want to teach you a tool around how to grow in your emotional intelligence, and it's called the prayer of examine. Now, the prayer of examine has four assumptions. Let me go through those really quickly. Number one, most people don't know what's going on in their hearts or their emotional lives. Now, they can, but they typically, for one reason or another, choose not to look there. Two, the other assumption is God examines the heart. Three, God knows the heart. And four, we can ask God to show us what's going on inside of us emotionally. And God can reveal that to us. And I think of King David in Psalm 139, where he prays, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting." Here, he's bringing all those assumptions together, where he's pursuing God for what is going on inside of him. We would say what's going on in him emotionally, or what's going on in his heart. He asks God. Why? Because he believes God can reveal it to him. Well, let's look at the prayer of examine. And the first step in the prayer of examine is a centering prayer. Let me talk about that really quickly. We're going to talk about it and then we want to try it. In a centering prayer, it goes something like this, where you would pray something around, "Dear Jesus, will you please show yourself to me?" Or another variation is where you say, "Dear Jesus, will you please reveal yourself to me?" Here we understand that Jesus is always present with us by his Spirit, but we're not always present to Jesus. And so our centering prayer takes this reality into consideration, where we just ask Jesus to help us be present with him. So we pray it, "Dear Jesus, will you please show yourself to me?" And then we pause and we listen. And as we pause and listen, the goal of the centering prayer is to let the pressures and the stress die away as we begin to focus on Jesus. Now, you want to listen, not think. The thinking is good, but sometimes listening is good too. So in the centering prayer, we listen for the Lord. And then we ask, Dear Jesus, what is going on in my heart? This would be a version of the prayer of examine. And then we sit and we listen. Now, typically when people first try this, what will happen is distractions come in and we go back to centering prayer. All right, dear Jesus, will you please show yourself to me? And we bring our focus back onto Jesus. And then we ask again, Dear Jesus, what is going on inside my heart? Now, when people begin to receive what's going on in them, often it comes to them according to their dominant learning style. And I'll give it a couple examples. Those people who are typically more visual often see their emotions. They'll see angry pictures. And they'll say, what is that? Well, it's a good chance it's the anger within you. Or they'll see a picture of sadness. It's simply because they're more visual, and so they see their emotions. Some people are more auditory in their learning style, and they'll hear either audibly or in a voice that's deep within them, they'll hear emotions. Okay? And some people, they just feel the emotions rise up within them. Others will be reminded of an event that happened that day that created emotions. I'll give an example. Many of my clients will describe events interacting with the CEO, the board, the president, where the president or someone criticized them and they felt worthless. They felt like they were terrible at their job. And to get to the day, they stuff the emotions down, but they have to now process it. Whatever comes up and however you receive it, what you then do is you give it over to Jesus. You give it to Jesus and you ask for something to take its place. It might go something like this. Let's say a disappointment came up. You didn't get the sale. You didn't get the promotion. Something happened. And so you say, Dear Jesus, I give you this disappointment. What do you give me in return? Healing takes place in the interaction, so you ask for something. Most people will describe receiving one of two things. Either some form of the fruit of the Spirit, love, peace, joy, long-suffering, and so on and so forth, which really takes the place of the negative emotion. But they often receive perspective as well. And this is the process of growing in their emotional intelligence. Perspective might be why they feel that way, what happened in their past to have them feel that way, or what they need to do in response to the interaction to move through it, like guidance. The fruit of the Spirit forms a foundation for our emotions to hold on to instead of the anger, the rage, the disappointment, the sadness, and then the insight to then get past it. As they do this, they grow in their self-awareness. They grow in their relationship with God. But as we do this regularly, another thing that happens is we begin to see the same emotions in others. Why? Because we're beginning to master them within ourselves. We grow in our emotional intelligence first, then we begin to identify emotions in others, and it actually helps us be better managers, better business owners, better executives, better salesmen, better saleswomen along the way. So let's try it. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through it. And as you pause and listen, I want you to pause the video. So first, repeat after me. Dear Jesus, will you please show yourself to me? Now pause the video and listen. If you've come back, And as you've centered yourself onto Jesus, we simply ask the question in the prayer of examine, Dear Jesus, what is going on inside of me? What am I feeling? Now pause the video and listen. Now, if you're back, tell me how it went. Were you able to do it? Did anything come up? Did things come up that you knew how to give to Jesus? If you need any help, I'd love to continue the conversation with me. I'd love it if you'd check out my website. I'd love it if you'd check out other videos. And I look forward to catching you next time.